Hi there, and thank you for clicking on my video. I think I'm gonna update my circuit build philosophy. I've been doing longer and longer runs when I do them now that they're less glitchy. They've really been updating it so there's way less, enemies falling off the map and stuff like that, like really odd stuff. And over the time, I've been slowly just trying to update my build for it. I would go in, see what was available, what I had built. And let me tell you, the fact that I never threw anything out and I have a bunch of weapons, a bunch of frames built is really paying dividends on being able to test because there is a very, very small chance now for me to actually um, not have something with a build already on it. So the idea of getting into the circuit, Steel Path, and finding I don't have any options. For some reason, it really likes giving me the Attica and the Vasto, the single one. Um, kind of funny, but what are you gonna do? But I've noticed as I've been slowly updating my builds that there is definitely a gist going along with it. And a lot of the Citrine's defense arcanes are really paying dividends. Specifically, Blessing is kind of surprising how effective it is. Because there's so many decrees, and we'll go over. Sorry for the flashbang, night users. Because there's so many decrees that provide you with like health recovery. Doing a health tank is actually incredibly reasonable, especially because you can regen many times your max health in a couple of shots. I was playing Nidus a couple of rounds ago, and it got me thinking, like, man, I don't need Grace at all. And to think of it, a Aegis, Barrier, maybe on like Hildren, but like super niche where it's like a single instance. But the idea of needing like face tank stuff, you can get enough status and status effects to where you can regen many times your health pool, especially with a couple of combos that really jack up the status. Citrine's pretty ridiculous in terms of status because there is the let's see, status. Foes inflicted with status effects have a 50% chance to spread that status to enemies within 10 meters. Um, and gain plus 100% damage for every enemy affected by status within 20 meters. Yeah, it all just appears to be pretty multiplicative or status building on status. Status effects deal double damage. Um, even though it's Steel Path, even though the enemies are like 3, 4, 5, 600, 2,000, um, you can still kill with abilities with a lot of frames, which is kind of nuts. But I wanted to update it a little bit. No, I did not change my mind on adding faction damage. But like, just let's go down the list. I've actually been running combat discipline, um, because once it gets going, once you pick up a couple of decrees, like it's for this one, it's really really important to pick up health regen on status because at the early levels, if you don't get it, you can kind of off yourself. But once you get it, like you're golden. And with energy regen the way it is, personally, I don't like doing more than say like like the first round, you'll get the decree at the beginning when you load into the Teshin's little lair where he's been hiding, and you'll get the decree there. I'll pick a utility decree, more or less, something that provides like efficiency. Um, and then after I pick my loadout, once you get in, you grab a decree from the orbs every single round, no exceptions. And then I'll do like a damage one, and then like a utility one, and then I'll do like 2 damage, and then like a damage and a utility again. And then like the next round, if I'm starting to go further, if the group's going further, I'll start doing 1 damage, 1 utility if I can. Obviously, it's RNG related, but if I had a choice. But the fact is blessing and flat armor and adaptation have been wonderful. Even as high as like 1300, adaptation still holds up because you're basically regenning your entire health pool, like every health tick, right? When you really get going with the status effects, it's not even close. And I've even tried it like Hunter Adrenaline builds, like pure face tank, and never taking any of the shield ones. And as long as you're dealing damage to stuff, unless you get straight up one shot, you're pretty immune to damage, honestly. So I've actually been rocking a combat discipline Arcane Avenger setup. So I can pick up health orbs at all times because there's no synth set on a pet, right? And there's plenty of energy orbs, there's plenty of health orbs. And Avenger still procs because you have to lose health when you kill something, but you gain it right back. So there's no overlap. It still counts as losing, even though you're regenerating so much health. So it's still completely viable. And the fact is that build wise, I've been leaning more towards face tank builds and pure strength range, like really buffing the frame as much as possible. So strength, range, duration, you don't get in any of the decrees, but you do get efficiency. So you dump stat. I've been dump statting efficiency and buffing the frame as much as possible for what it needs. Like Equinox, I have tried this. I didn't do like a super long run, but we got to like level 600. And with the range and with the slow and the cold on everything, everything ends up stacking up pretty nicely. Even though the enemy's corrupted, there's obviously like uh, shield auras that could help a ton. But the fact is I've been leaning toward just straight up one-shotting the enemy because you clearly have enough damage now. Once you get like 10 rounds in, 12 rounds in, you're gonna have enough damage if you RNG'd the right decrees, or at least picked multiplicative damage. The only thing that you really have to choose is you look at the weapons you go in the first time if you're really trying to do a longer run. You see what frames you have, you take note of it. You pick a primary, a secondary, and a melee, and then you pick whichever one you have the best build on, and that becomes the thing you deal damage with. And the other ones, then you only pick, like, say you have like a primary, right? Yeah, and you have a build on it. It's a frame and a primary run. I mean, obviously this is Galaxy Brain information, right? Like, this is pretty basic. But I've been slowly retooling a specific circuit run or a circuit build for a lot of my frames so I can pick up and go. The only thing I will say that has kind of screwed me over a bit is having multiple of the same frame. The builds don't cross over. It is a specific frame. So, like, say, where I have like a Saren, where it's like a buffer Saren, and like a shield gate Saren for like Molt. But then I have like an ESO Saren. It's not the same frame for me. that has hurt my ability to mod a bit. So I've been trying to figure out how to do it, like Prime Sure-Footed, if you have it. There's no better Exilus. But I've been leaning more into like dump statting efficiency because you can get it back up to 90, which makes everything else almost a pure buff. Now, obviously, this build wouldn't be like ideal for Equinox, so I'm not suggesting this for Equinox, but like as a general build, I've been running something close to this. And you would run the Archon mods, the Cold, the Stretch, these all apply. These all apply. So if you can fit them on your build, obviously Archon Intensify requires your ability to heal you, so it would be Equinox's 4 in this case. But the other 4 Archon mods all apply, because you can get these statuses, except for electricity. I don't think. Let me check real quick. I don't think so. Yeah, no electricity. But flow you can get, toxin you can get, heat you can get. So if you can buff this, the damage will apply. Now, I don't think Vitality would be that big of a deal because it's only a double dot on the little 50 heat proc, right? But like Archon Flow, having cold, it helps. You know, and then you get the bonus. Like when you look, I'll look through what it is. A lot of it's a weapon buff, right? Yeah, I think it's really hard to tell because everything's dying so fast. But I think on Tumbling Frost, the cold damage does apply. And I've been able to trigger it, but it's been near impossible being able to see what's actually triggering it. It could have been I RNG'd like a really lucky hit, but it's procced before. I've seen it come up. Archon Stretch obviously wouldn't, but Prime Continuity, this applies if you have abilities. So there's a lot to figure out still on like what a meta build is, because a lot of the damage, there's a lot of toxin, there's a lot on like say melee for example. During combat, leave behind a toxin cloud every 10 seconds for 5 seconds. And the fact is that it's really dependent on which version. Like the toxin one, I don't think should have been applying, but I did see it apply when I did like a Saren run when the thing first started, the circuit first started. I think it's gone. There's no reason. I mean, obviously they've been patching the hell out of this, but it was on the toxin clouds, toxic approach, and the heat was double proccing also. Not that that matters too much, because it's such a small amount. But it does, I think it applies vulnerability, right? I haven't done a heat build yet, so don't quote me on that. But I've been running a build similar to this pretty regularly. And just dump statting efficiency. Even with like Blind Rage, the efficiency is only an issue until you get the right decree. And generally you'll have teammates or something like that that can help out, especially if you're going in with a group. I would highly recommend if you're trying to do like a level cap or something. I haven't done one yet, but I plan on it. If you're doing a level cap, try to pick a frame that's like a CC frame where it can keep the Eximus off. Anything that can apply cold really quickly. Zada's Whisper is a premium because of the overguard on the Eximus and the Thrax. It'll help you burn them down way quicker. Dots, say like Gas Electric, are really, really useful. Though you won't have a lot of raw damage. They destroy overguard. So they take down Thrax really, really quickly. And because of the additional instances of damage and the fact that you're constantly proccing them, they take down Overguard super fast. But I've been working on this. This is sort of like a build update. Going on, like what my standard build has been, basically been dot builds, because there's so much. Most of the enemies are corrupted, and then you have the Thrax and Deviri enemies, and they tend to run about, I would say, like 60% corrupted, and like the remainder the Deviri. But the big thing is the Thrax, right? The Thrax are going to be the thing that jump on the defense and one-shot it. So those are the threat. Those are the things that end the game, right? Where you lose. So anything that we can put on that allows us to burn them down faster. I've been running, if I do like a primary, obviously this isn't relevant to the Ignis, but like a toxin slash setup, if I can get it. Because you can get rid of armor relatively easy nowadays, especially if you're running Unaro. The armor isn't an issue, but the shield bypass, there's a bunch of shit with shields. And especially Overguard, anything where you can increase the dot on it, burn it down super fast, is super helpful because the decrees give bonus to dot damage. And there are some where it causes like bonus damage, but it looks like it's a separate instance for now. But either way, it's a separate instance. You're dealing multiple procs on the enemy, dots, anything that can burn it down. So it's a standard build, and no, I'm still not doing faction damage. The Thrax are the enemy. The one thing I will say that is shown to be incredibly useful. Hold on, where is it? Primary plated rounds. If you get the reload decree, this is a straight bonus. Right? Primary plated rounds was seen as a bit of a joke. Well, guess what? This shit pays dividends on large magazine weapons. If you get that reload arcane, it doesn't matter what your reload time is. You do a roll, you're reloaded, and you get a new damage buff. So you'll go all the way down to 0, roll. Go all the way down to 0, roll. And in combination with the fire rate boost, you can, turn into like almost anything that like this, like the Ignis Wraith is like basically a beam weapon, but it's held. Anything that's a bullet hose gets so fast DPS wise that the main issue that actually ends up holding you back is your ammo. So the only thing that I would say that is close to a requirement, besides crit chance, crit damage, fire rate, multi-shot, and obviously base damage, right? Anything that buffs base damage, is the primed mods are paying dividends as well. There is a massive difference in how comfortable you feel running through with weapons that have the primed ammo mutation and those that don't. This is way easier to keep everything up because generally everything's just running right at you, right? And if you're running in a group and everybody's sort of spread out, if you need ammo, you'll just, if you guys are spread out into 4 in like the survival section or the exterminate, for example, and you run out of ammo, you just run over to where somebody else is and you just pick up the ammo that they dropped, right? And you'll be back to square one, right? So you'll be fine doing that. Like, it's a little bit of a play style adjustment, not a big deal. No rocket science yet. I haven't really messed around with secondaries too much, though they get pretty insane too. Like the Nucor was the one that I actually did use. It was the Encumber build. What do we got? Not that one. It's the other Nucor. I actually lucked out. This was super strong. Yeah, this one. Uh, did a magnetic toxin one. I was actually able to pull out and retool it and go back in with this. So this was something that I actually like picked. My decree gave me fire rate on crit. So, or what is it? Hold on, let me check exactly what the decree was. Each shot, not on crit. This one, irresistible bombardment. Each shot briefly increases fire rate by 30% cumulatively. It shoots this up into the nether realm in terms of fire rate. So no issues, right? Galvanized shot gets jacked to hell. Still not modding for faction because I need to be able to kill the Thrax, right? Those are the threat. Those are the things that jump on the defense targets, right? They're gonna one-shot you eventually, hopefully. But the probably the closest thing to something that's like quote unquote locked in is I actually was able to do a run with the Cronin, which was pretty nice. And I took a toxin setup, which is basically what I used for Index, where the enemies have armor and shields, shattering impact. You strip super quick, because the Thrax, even though they are massively beefy, they do they do have a small armor quotient, right? Their armor rating is very small, which means you can burn through it super quick. And once the overguard's gone, they basically blow up. So this is what I was running on that. This worked out wonderfully. This is what I got up to 1300. And it was mowing stuff down. Obviously, that was a melee build when I did it. It wasn't on like Saren or anything like that. I think it was Grendel. But super easy run, no issues. The armor shredded, or the Shattering Impact shredded the armor, because not too many of the enemies have a really high armor rating. Remember these enemies that are in here? The Duviri ones don't have a lot of armor. The Thrax have a low armor rating, so it's pretty quick to strip, especially on a weapon like the Cronin, where it's got all that multi-hit. And you need to be able to get past the shields, so like a high attack speed. I did have the melees attack twice. The crit chance on hit, and the crit when critting, it gives you crit damage. So the melee was pretty jacked. So still not running faction. Because of how strong the enemies are, you get enough bonuses that basically my philosophy has come down to I need this weapon to have all the shit that I can't get from a decree, where one or two will cause the weapon damage to explode. So, like, crit chance is really good because the Cronin really doesn't have a super high crit chance. Obviously, if you invested into it, you could get reds pretty regularly. But it's a nice, comfy, generic build. And if I start getting decrees that buff it, the damage will get out of control really quickly. So like the double crit damage is a really important one. Melee hits applying twice is a really important one. Dots dealing double damage are really important for this build. And I've been having really good luck with it. Using this on other weapons. Tonfas, I'm not going to lie, Tonfas seem to be king right now. So even if it's a weak Tonfa, the main multipliers you need are Condition Overload. Hold on, I'm actually missing that. Okay, I didn't even have range on it. I was using the other one. So like this build, you just need the weapon to be as ready as possible when it gets buffed. It's the biggest multiplier possible to whatever the incoming buff is. And the other one did 1300s really nicely. The attack speed, it makes a lot of sense. The attack speed did get a little high. It started doing that thing where it would just like auto and it wouldn't complete the rest of the stance because the attack speed was so high. I wasn't able to keep up, and it was only triggering the first part of the initial combo, which was kind of silly to look at, where it's the little whip where it does the little spin in front of you. But that makes a lot of sense. But yeah, Prime Reach also. You just need this because this weapon is going to have so many additional multipliers attached onto it. You need this to be as potent as possible. It's not just about the build. I understand the faction damage is a big deal, but you can potentially get dots deal double damage, and all of a sudden that faction mod is irrelevant, right? And then you have and it's only for the weaker enemies. You want to be able to nuke them as fast as possible. The Thrax. Everything else is a trash mob compared to those because those are the guys that jump specifically onto the defense target, and that's the one that's been the one that eventually knocks us out, is because the Thrax will come in from like whatever its jump distance is, and if we don't burn it down, it's got the overguard. It jumps and the defense target pops. So this is the build that I've been using, and the Thrax have been getting burned down really, really quick. Even though it's a dot build, generally once the dot hits, good to go. Other than that, the other one that seems to be doing good is I've been using Zenuric for early energy management. But admittedly, I'd want to take Inaro because I've been doing the negative efficiency start. I'll probably start to try to force this and try doing runs with this because the armor strip is going to be a big deal. And if I start running this, then say like if I'm doing like a melee carry, and I'm doing regular armor strip and I'm willing to put up with the APM, Shattering Impact can go away. And then you just do like a Glad mod. Glad Might. Easy 5x, you get double crit damage, and you're cruising, right? So it is what it is. This is my updated the arcanes, like Blessing and whatnot. This has been great, especially having like the massive health pool. It prevents getting one shot, and as long as you don't get one shot, you basically can stack recover health so fast, especially on a multi-hit weapon or say like a primary. If you're proccing statuses, I forget what the decree is, but it's like 40 to like 80 health per status. It has a bunch of ranks in it. Well, I was playing Nidus and with the Astilla, and it's AoE slash. And I was literally like with 2 shots, I literally recovered my entire health pool, and I was down at like 300 health, and I went up to like whatever it is with the triple Umbra set. And I was like, man, if I had known this, I wouldn't have taken Grace. There's no point in taking those, which is kind of nice. Admittedly, that is kind of nice. Not needing Grace, not needing like Energize, because the decrees can give you a ton of energy. And with Blessing and Equilibrium, it helps you with energy management early to make the efficiency not so bad. Because Blessing is basically 50 free Equilibrium triggers. When you pick up health, even if you're max health, the 50 stacks apply with Equilibrium, and that helps you get through like the first 2 rounds basically. Because you're not going to be the only person killing, right? So that's sort of the gimmick for energy management. I haven't really needed Vaz or Zenuric too much. Just Blessing and Equilibrium is like a synth set proc 50 times. And that it's pretty comfortably gotten me through the first 2 rounds regularly. So it is what it is. Anyway, I hope this helps. If you guys have any ideas, we can probably figure out really effective tactics together, to be honest. But this is what I got so far. And I've gotten it to whatever that is, round 12, round 11, whatever it is. But I've been enjoying the circuit. I've been enjoying it. I haven't even maxed out my intrinsics. If I had sat down and farmed up my intrinsics by doing the Deviri experience, I would have probably had them 2-3 times over by now. But I've been doing the circuit. I enjoy it. But anyway, take it easy, guys.